Economists warn taxpayers to expect a less generous approach from Finance Minister, and Justice Department says there's nothing out of the ordinary about arms inquiry regulations. I'm Lebo Changela with this news update. Economists have warned taxpayers to expect a less generous approach from Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan when he delivers his budget speech in the National Assembly this afternoon. They say Gordhan faces a difficult balancing act in keeping government borrowing within prudent bounds and funding the money for ambitious government development plans. SABC parliamentary correspondent Andre Jordan has more.
A Reuters poll shows economists expecting the budget deficit to be 5.4%, slightly more than Gordhan forecast last year. Old Mutual economist Johan Els says this means the Treasury will have to limit current expenditure, such as the public service wage bill, and he says taxpayers should not expect the generosity of last year's budget, when Gordhan gave away 8 billion rand in fiscal drag relief. Financial markets will also be watching for the Finance Minister's views on South Africa's economic prospects in the light of continued international financial shakiness. Most expect that his growth forecast will be revised downwards to less than 3% of GDP. Andre Jordan at Parliament.
The Justice Department says there's nothing out of the ordinary about the regulations that President Jacob Zuma has proclaimed to guide the Commission of Inquiry into the multi-billion rand arms deal. The regulations published by Zuma last week include, among others, clauses that forbid the dissemination of shorthand, electronic and transcribed parts of the record of the hearings. The regulations also prohibit the publishing of the Commission's report or interim report without the President's authorization. Violation of the regulations is deemed to constitute an offence under the Commissions Act and could lead to a fine of up to 200,000 rand or 6 months imprisonment. Justice spokesperson Tladi.
The regulations have been formulated in accordance with the provisions of the Commissions Act of 1947. Whilst the terms of reference are there to provide and guide the Commission in terms of what it must do, the regulations are there in order to provide for the Commission and guide it in terms of how to go about. In addition, they are there in order to provide additional powers which the President intended to confer on the Commission.
Transnet has put aside more than 20 billion rand for the development of the Durban Harbour Container Terminal. Head of Port Infrastructure at the National Port Authority, Hamilton Umalo, says the containers handled at the terminal represent more than 60% of the total number of containers handled at all South African ports. He says the current projects due to be completed over the next few years will enable Durban to handle larger ships.
We started some time back. We had to widen the entrance channel from 120 meters to 220 meters and also to ensure that it's deep enough to accommodate larger vessels. Now, the second phase, we need to deepen the beds. That's where the ships actually dock. We're going to spend roughly about 3.1 billion rand on the North Quay of the Durban Container Terminal. That's where our focus is on.
And a man has been arrested and abalone worth 5 million rand confiscated in Cape Town. PD spokesperson Frederick van Wyk says during a police patrol, officers pulled over a bakkie which was being driven recklessly on the N2. He says officers found 6,562 pieces of abalone and 44 bags under a blanket. The 55-year-old driver is expected to appear in the Khayelitsha Magistrates Court soon.